The desert doesn't whisper. It listens. In the early hours of April 14th, 1996, veteran long-haul trucker Caleb Rourke guided his 18-wheeler east across U.S. Route 191, a remote, winding stretch of highway cutting through Arizona's high desert badlands. The road had earned the nickname the Devil's Backbone, a name older truckers used half-jokingly, half-dead serious. Sparse traffic, no shoulder, and entire segments with no cell signal. Just rocks, brush, rattlesnakes, and shadow. Caleb knew the risks, but he loved the road. 43 years old, tough as a bent nail, he was the kind of trucker who kept to himself and kept his truck cleaner than his own kitchen. A man of habit. His wife Deidre used to say Caleb ran on diesel and muscle memory. He'd made this same Phoenix to Farmington run dozens of times, hauling everything from dry goods to produce to medical supplies. That night, he was hauling a refrigerated trailer full of lettuce and citrus bound for a grocery distributor in New Mexico. The load was light, and the road was dry, conditions Caleb preferred. He left the Maricopa Depot just after 11 p.m., waving to the night watchman as he rolled out. He liked to drive at night. The CB chatter was less frantic. The air was cooler. He could open the window and let the desert roll over him like a wave, clean and sharp and endless. At 1:02 a.m., he checked in with dispatch from a gas and go station outside Morenci, his Kenworth idling as he scribbled a line in his logbook and bought a lukewarm coffee. The cashier remembered him. Polite, calm, said he was making good time. It was a nothing moment, one of thousands in a trucker's life. But it would be the last verifiable stop Caleb Rourke ever made. From there, the route got darker, lonelier. He passed the abandoned mining town of Clifton, its rusted cranes and blackened shacks watching silently from the cliffs. Every so often, he'd see a faint glow from a house or trailer tucked into the hills, but most of the landscape was nothing but dust, cactus, and cold moonlight. Caleb flipped through the CB bands for company, pausing briefly on a conversation about a bad wreck up near Flagstaff. He chuckled to himself at someone's off-color joke. Then he settled into silence again. At 2:27 a.m., trucker Lonnie Franks, hauling cattle westbound, passed Caleb's rig just east of Black Rock Overlook, where the land falls away into a vast sea of scrub and stone. The two exchanged the usual blink-blink of headlights, the trucker's salute. Franks would later say. He looked sharp, kept his light steady. No weaving, no speed up, slow down. Looked like he had another couple hundred miles in him easy. That was the last visual confirmation of Caleb Rourke. The desert closed behind him. Up ahead, the road twisted through canyons where radio signals die and headlights bend in strange ways. There were stories, of course. Every old-timer had one. People seeing things on the stretch. Shapes, lights, figures standing just off the road. No one took them seriously until they vanished, too. Caleb wasn't a believer in ghost stories, but he did believe in danger, the real kind. The kind that drives on four wheels with bad intentions and no license plate. What he didn't know, as the miles ticked by and the moon slid higher, was that something had begun to follow him. Something with no taillights, no CB chatter, no name. And as his Kenworth rolled into the most desolate stretch of the Devil's Backbone, no houses, no rest stops, no gas stations for the next 40 miles, Caleb Rourke's journey crossed from routine into legend. The first thing heard was static. Then Caleb's voice calm, but strained. Breaker 19? Anybody copy? I've got a tale. It was 3:44 a.m. And the few truckers still tuned to CB Channel 19 were jolted awake by the sudden break in radio silence. On a stretch of road where chatter was rare, this was unusual. I got someone following me with their brights on. Real damn close. They've been on me for a good 20 minutes now. Trucker Ben Hall, driving eastbound about 40 miles back, was the first to respond. You sure they ain't just another hauler? Happens all the time out this way. Nah, Ben, this ain't no rig. Lights sit too low. They're not trying to pass. They're just hovering. What Caleb described was unnerving. A low-sitting vehicle, possibly a van or SUV, riding his bumper at high speed with blinding high beams. too bright even for modern halogens. He said he couldn't make out the make, model, or plate, just white-hot glare filling his mirrors. Other drivers listening in began chiming in, suggesting he pull off at the Devil's Tongue rest area, a tiny dirt turnout with a porta-john and a trash can. The only break in the road for the next dozen miles. "Yeah," Caleb said. "I see the sign. I'll pull off there." A moment passed. Then came another transmission, more frantic now, words clipped and shaky. "They're picking up speed. I think they're trying to come around." No, what the hell? They're coming, up my left." Silence. The transmission cut mid-word. One final squeal of static, and then nothing. For 90 seconds, Channel 19 was dead air. It was 3:47 a.m. when trucker Denny Morales, who was heading eastbound and about 25 miles behind Caleb, thought he saw something, a flash of light in the distance like a camera flash in a tunnel, followed by a momentary flicker on the horizon. "I thought it was a flare or lightning, but it was bone dry and there weren't no clouds," Morales said later. He and another trucker, Mike Dillard, reached the area at 4:02 a.m. They slowed, scanned the shoulders, pulled over, got out, walked the brush with flashlights. No signs of a crash. No skid marks. No broken reflectors. No tire shreds. No coolant leaks. No shattered glass. And no sign of Caleb Rourke's 70,000-pound truck. It was as if the road had opened up and swallowed him whole. Within hours, dispatchers flagged him as unresponsive. By 10 a.m., the Arizona Highway Patrol was alerted. Search teams were deployed by noon. Helicopters from Springerville Municipal Airport swept the area, followed by ATVs and dogs brought in from nearby counties. They found nothing. But late on the second day, a breakthrough came. One of the chopper pilots spotted what looked like tire impressions cutting off from Route 191 into a faded side trail, barely visible beneath dust and overgrowth. A land access road, long decommissioned. Search teams followed the tracks. They stretched for 7 miles, winding through scrub and mesas, ending in a wide, flat basin flanked by boulders. At the end of the trail, the tire impressions simply stopped. No turnoff, no marks, no drag. There was no truck, no trailer, no cargo, no Caleb. It made no sense. A Kenworth rig doesn't just vanish. You need a crane, a ramp, a convoy to hide something that massive, and there were no signs of those either. Forensics teams scoured the area. Heat signatures were negative. Satellite flyovers caught nothing suspicious. The only thing left behind was the trail itself, cut deep in soft sand, then cleanly ending as if Caleb had been lifted straight off the earth. "You ever see tire tracks stop in the middle of nowhere?" one trooper said. "No brake marks. No spin out. Just gone. Like a ghost lifted it." The case officially shifted from missing person to unexplained disappearance. Witnesses began to surface. Word traveled quickly through trucking channels. Over the next week, half a dozen truckers came forward with eerily similar stories from Route 191. A driver reported being followed by a white van with a spotlight on the roof. It peeled off the highway the moment he passed another vehicle. Another set of vehicle tailed him for 30 miles, brights on the whole way, before disappearing down a ravine that had no visible road. One woman, driving solo in winter 1995, claimed she had seen a figure standing in the road, surrounded by headlights, but no car, just light. Each story sounded implausible on its own, but together they painted a chilling pattern. A predator hiding in plain sight, a phantom tail, a vanishing light, and a graveyard of silence out past the range of headlights. The desert has no walls, but it keeps secrets better than any room. For 7 days after Caleb Rourke's final radio call, the Devil's Backbone was no longer just a highway. It became a crime scene, a whisper network, a vein of quiet paranoia pulsing through the trucking world. Every hauler, rookie, or veteran now looked twice in their rearview. Some started driving only in daylight. Others pulled off in groups, never alone. And a few refused to run Route 191 ever again. The Arizona Highway Patrol, assisted by federal transportation investigators, launched the largest rural search in state history for a missing trucker. Dozens of officers combed the basin where Caleb's tracks ended, armed with heat sensors, radar, even ground-penetrating drones. They found nothing. No buried mass, no disturbed soil, no skid or drag lines, not even a dropped bolt. It was like he'd evaporated. The only physical clue came 9 days after he vanished: a weathered wallet, found by a rancher checking cattle fences 25 miles north of the basin. Wedged under a mesquite root, it contained Rourke's ID, his credit cards, and $243 in cash, untouched. Not torn, not water damaged. It hadn't been there long, but there were no footprints around it. Theories swirled. Some believed Caleb had been hijacked by a high-level cargo theft ring, the kind that strips trucks down and dumps drivers into anonymous graves. Others thought it was cartel-related, a case of wrong place, wrong time. But no one could explain the absence of evidence. Not a tire track, not a shoe print, not a scent for the dogs to follow. Then, on May 22nd, over a month after Caleb vanished, a Department of Transportation crew repairing a guardrail near the San Pedro Canyon stumbled upon something lodged in a dry wash. A CB radio, cracked but intact. On the side was a label in black marker: Rourke, K40. Forensics found 4 sets of fingerprints. One set was Caleb's. The others? Unknown. No matches in any database, criminal, federal, or military. Once news broke about the radio, more truckers came forward. A driver reported seeing a white van with fogged-out windows parked at the Summit Ridge rest area every Thursday night that month. Engine running, lights on, never saw the driver. Another swore she saw a Kenworth rig, same model as Rourke's, on a flatbed trailer heading south through Winslow, completely covered by a tarp, escorted by an unmarked car. Each story was dismissed as anecdotal. No photos, no plates, no hard evidence. But there was one account that couldn't be ignored. In 1998, a man named Elias Barr, arrested in a cargo theft operation near Gallup, mentioned, offhand, and under no pressure, the desert job that got screwed. When investigators asked for details, Barr's demeanor changed. "Forget it," he said. "That wasn't us. That was something else. Something we were told to stay away from." Barr refused to speak further. 2 weeks later, he was found dead in his holding cell. Apparent suicide. Built from a laundry bag. His case file vanished from the system for 6 months before being mysteriously reinstated. Years passed. Caleb's family held on to hope, though it dwindled like tire tracks and dust. His wife, Deidre, became a quiet but persistent advocate for trucker safety. She pushed for GPS panic switches, real-time monitoring, and CB distress triggers. She wrote letters to lawmakers. She gave interviews. She waited by the phone every April 14th. She died in 2019, still waiting. But in 2013, the case took a turn no one could explain. An elderly waitress named Sharon Klein, who worked at a remote diner outside St. John's, Arizona, turned over a Polaroid to state authorities. She'd kept it for nearly 17 years. A man left it in his check holder. He paid in cash. Didn't say a word the whole time he was in there. Just sat in the corner booth and watched the road. The Polaroid showed a blue Kenworth truck, nearly identical to Caleb's, parked inside a dimly lit structure, possibly a hangar or aircraft warehouse. The image was grainy, tilted, and the license plate was smudged out, either by overexposure or deliberately. Forensic analysts were able to verify that the reflective sticker patterns matched Rourke's fleet, but without a plate, VIN, or timestamp, it was inadmissible as conclusive proof. Still, the truck was there. Somewhere. At some point. And someone had watched it disappear long enough to take a picture. Every year since 1997, on the anniversary of Caleb's disappearance, a quiet procession of truckers rolls down the Devil's Backbone between mile marker 74 and 86. They drive slow. Headlights dimmed. CBs tuned to 19. No one speaks. They just roll, a memorial in motion. The Arizona Department of Public Safety still keeps the file open, still logs every anonymous tip. But in 30 years, no body has been found, no vehicle recovered, no suspects charged. Some say Caleb was taken by a secretive smuggling ring. Others believe he stumbled upon something or someone he was never meant to see. And then there are the old-timers who still speak of the watchers. Lights that appear with no source, tailing trucks until they veer off-road and never come back. He's not the first, one driver once said, and he sure as hell won't be the last. To this day, many truckers refuse to stop along Route 191 after midnight. Even fewer talk about the bright lights that seem to follow them. And for those who do, they always make sure someone else is on the line, just in case. On a cold, rain-slick Tuesday night in October 1998, trucker Nathan Grady, 38, pulled his distinctive red Peterbilt into the Crescent Bend rest area, a remote stopover on Highway 160, deep within Colorado's sparsely populated plateau region. The air was damp, the asphalt steaming, and the mountains rising around him like sleeping giants. Nathan was well known in the trucking community, a reliable hauler with 16 years of clean runs and a reputation for calling home like clockwork. He'd left Los Angeles that morning, hauling electric water heaters bound for Salt Lake City. It was his last run of the week. At 11:37 p.m., his truck was caught by the rest area's aging security camera, pulling into the far corner, driver's side facing the open slope of pines beyond the lot. By sunrise, the truck was still there. Engine cold. Door cracked open slightly. Inside, nothing looked out of place. His logbook was open to a fresh page with that night's mileage. A half-empty coffee sat in the cup holder. His overnight duffel untouched. His wallet, still fat with cash, was left openly on the seat, not hidden, not robbed. There were no signs of a struggle. No blood. No prints. No mud tracked in or out. Nathan Grady was gone. Local sheriff's deputies searched the perimeter. Dogs picked up no trail. Helicopters scanned the tree line. A nearby maintenance worker said he didn't see or hear a thing. The camera feed from the rest stop offered no answers either. The lens was smeared with rain for most of the night. No one could explain how a 240-pound man vanished from his rig without leaving so much as a boot print behind. Nathan's family raised hell. His wife went to the media. Trucking forums lit up with conspiracy theories. But as the days stretched into weeks, hope thinned. Investigators labeled it an open missing person case and moved on. Until it happened again. 6 weeks later, December 9th, 1998. Another trucker, Pamela Drew, 41, pulled into Crescent Bend around 12:05 a.m. Pamela wasn't just experienced. She was meticulous. Known for being cautious to the point of paranoia, she always parked close to light poles, always locked her doors, and always phoned her sister before turning in for the night. That night, she called home like clockwork. Crescent Bend. Rains cleared. One other vehicle parked way down at the edge. Some kind of dark sedan, lights on inside. "I'm turning in. We'll check in at 6. She never did. By 7:15 a.m., a trooper responding to a welfare check found her rig exactly where she'd parked it. Windows unbroken, cab locked from the inside. Her logbook showed a final entry at 12:15 a.m. Her bedding looked slightly disturbed, as if she had stretched out for a moment but never fully settled. Nothing had been stolen. Her purse was still locked away. Even the truck's GPS system showed no abnormal movement. But it was the security footage that stunned investigators. At 2:17 a.m., the black and white camera, partially obscured by frost, captured a man approaching the truck from the shadows. Average build, wearing a dark coat and a brimmed cap. He walked straight to the driver's side and knocked, standing unnaturally still. The door opened. Pamela stepped down. They talked briefly, and then she walked away with him, off camera, vanishing into darkness. Neither was seen again. The dark sedan was gone by sunrise. By January, law enforcement shifted from coincidence to criminal pattern. The FBI entered the case, now treating Crescent Bend and its surrounding territory as the epicenter of a targeted serial abduction zone. Flyers went up, highway signs lit with amber-style alerts. Trucking forums turned frantic. But the killer had already moved on. In March 1999, a flash flood carved through a ravine 30 miles west of Crescent Bend. A Department of Transportation crew clearing debris found a leather wallet jammed between river rocks. It belonged to Nathan Grady. Inside were IDs, credit cards, and $178 in cash, but also something else, a torn scrap of paper with 4 handwritten names. 2 of them, Nathan Grady and Pamela Drew, were already known. The other 2? Miguel Vasquez and Clint Merrow, both truckers who had gone missing under unrelated circumstances in 1997, one in New Mexico, the other in Arizona. Those cases, until now, had been considered unrelated. One vanished at a gas station, the other from a rest stop outside Gallup. But now, a chilling line connected them, one that traced across the Four Corners region, from desolate pit stops to shuttered border towns. The most shocking twist came when police tracked down the 5th name on the list, a man not crossed out, but underlined. Franklin Frank Maddox, a 52-year-old independent hauler from Albuquerque. He was alive, and he had a story. It was July of '97. I was sleeping in my cab at a rest stop south of Shiprock. Around 2 a.m., someone knocked, said his car broke down, asked to borrow my CB. But something felt off. The guy, the way he spoke, formal, like some college professor, gave me chills. Maddox refused to open the window. The man grew agitated. He looked at me real calm and said, "You don't belong here." Then added, "That's all right. I'll find another subject." Minutes later, another truck pulled into the lot. The man vanished between the trailers. Maddox never reported it. Until now. In January 2000, a hiker exploring abandoned mine shafts near Paradox Valley made a grisly discovery: skeletal remains chained inside a rusted ventilation chamber. Forensics confirmed the identity: Nathan Grady. He had died weeks after his disappearance, not days. The autopsy report was clinical but chilling: malnourishment, blunt force trauma, extensive confinement injuries. In short, he had been kept alive. A massive operation launched to explore more shafts across the plateau. Within 3 weeks, search teams uncovered 4 more holding chambers, each rigged with crude chains, makeshift beds, and scraps of personal belongings. A women's work boot, Pamela's size. A trucker's cap with Vasquez Freight embroidered. A pocket knife with Clint Merrow's initials. And in the deepest chamber, a trophy room. Inside, over 30 logbooks, all neatly labeled. Keys, wallets, belt buckles, Polaroid photographs, and a spiral-bound journal, its pages water-stained but legible. Each page was numbered. Each subject referred to only by order. Each entry read like clinical research notes. Subject 6 began hallucinations on day 18. Subject 7 exhibited signs of cognitive detachment by day 12. Threshold for vocal resistance: 9 days without food, 3 days without light. The journal continued for over 80 pages, but no name, no signature, no clues. Then, in September 2001, during a routine traffic stop in Durango, Colorado, officers arrested Arthur K. Lang, a 44-year-old former behavioral science lecturer. A loaded .38 was found under his seat, along with police scanners, fake IDs, and maps of rest stops across the Southwest. His home, when searched, contained more. A hidden room with surveillance photos from rest areas. Additional journals, almost identical in tone to the shaft entries. Personal effects from victims never made public. When questioned, Lang was calm, emotionless. They lived lives of solitude. I just isolated them further. He said he'd lost his university job after unethical research proposals involving stress testing in long-term sensory deprivation. When asked if he felt guilt, "Why would I? They were test subjects. I needed isolation." They gave it. In April 2002, Lang was convicted of 4 counts of murder and multiple counts of abduction, sentenced to life without parole. Today, Crescent Bend rest area bears a simple bronze plaque nailed into a stone wall near the vending machines. It reads, "In memory of the drivers who never finished their route." Since the Lang case, multiple rest stops across the region have implemented panic buttons, motion sensor floodlights, and upgraded cameras. But the trucking community hasn't forgotten, and neither have the roads. To this day, many haulers refer to that stretch of Highway 160 as Dead Bend, not for its curves, but for what once waited quietly at the end of them. And sometimes, when a truck idles too long after midnight, a driver will wake to find footprints in the dust that weren't there before. March 12, 2005. Veteran trucker Ray Maddox, 47, rolled into Black Hollow Truck Plaza off Route 220, tucked deep in the folds of Pennsylvania's Appalachian corridor. It was the kind of stop only locals or long-haul lifers knew. Quiet, dimly lit, gas pumps with cracked logos, a diner that still served meals on chip plates, a lot built more for shadows than safety. Ray had just completed a brutal 14-hour run from Roanoke to Central Ohio and back, hauling industrial gear, heavy, expensive, not easily resold. He was scheduled to deliver the load to Buffalo by sunrise. Ray knew these backroads like he knew the inside of his cab. In 23 years on the road, he'd built a reputation, punctual, professional, the kind of driver who called dispatch to report a 5-minute delay. He didn't miss check-ins. He didn't ignore schedules. At 9:42 p.m., Ray finished his dinner, meatloaf and black coffee, and walked out of the diner holding a white styrofoam container. Surveillance footage captured him crossing the lot, stepping between 2 trucks, heading toward his white Freightliner parked in a far corner beneath a flickering sodium light. The camera lost sight of him for just a moment. Ray Maddox was never seen alive again. By 10 a.m. the next morning, Ray's truck was still in the exact same spot. Locked, no movement, no CB activity, no ignition locks. Dispatch grew concerned. His last known GPS ping was from 9:43 p.m., parked and idle. A local trooper was dispatched. He found Ray's logbook open on the dash, with the final entry time stamped. The driver's bag was still in the sleeper. His wallet was gone, but the styrofoam container of meatloaf, untouched, sat on the passenger seat. Ray never made it into his bed, never turned on the AC, never touched his dinner. Investigators searched the lot. No blood, no broken mirrors, no glass, no tire tracks, no disturbance in the gravel. They pulled plaza security footage, but something was off. One of the 2 main cameras was dead, supposedly due to a power short during the previous week's thunderstorm. Only one angle remained, the diner view. Reviewing it frame by frame revealed something else. At 9:50 p.m., just after Ray vanished, a dark SUV crept into the lot. Its windows were tinted. It circled twice, then parked outside the main camera's range. No one exited on film. But 40 minutes later, the SUV pulled out and disappeared northbound, taking the back access road. 13 days later, another long-haul driver, Elaine Corbett, 39, pulled into Black Hollow at 10:34 p.m. Unlike Ray, Elaine was cautious, almost paranoid. After a minor rear collision incident a few years prior, she had developed a habit. At every stop, she would take photos of her truck, front, back, and sides, before stepping away from it. Insurance protection, she called it. That night was no different. Parked next to 2 other rigs, Elaine snapped her photos as usual. But then noticed something strange. Something moved under the trailer beside me. At first, I thought it was a raccoon or a stray dog. Then I realized it was a person, crawling. She described a man in dark clothing, wearing tactical gloves and a ball cap, slithering between the wheels like he'd done it before. In his hand, a metal rod, like a catch pole, the kind animal control uses to pin dogs. Elaine didn't hesitate. She ran back to her truck, locked the cab, and called 911. By the time police arrived, 17 minutes later, the man was gone. But Elaine had the photos. Zoomed in, one showed a blurry figure in profile, eyes locked on the undercarriage of her truck. Another showed the pole, unmistakably a snare device, tucked under his arm. Police finally had a face, though partial, and a method. A bolo was issued to every truck stop within a 100-mile radius. 3 days later, along a rural stretch of Route 6, a PennDOT worker clearing litter from the roadside found something half-buried in a ditch, a wallet. Inside, Ray Maddox's ID, cash and cards untouched. And one more thing, a Polaroid photograph wedged behind the license. Ray was slumped unconscious in what looked like a cement room, wrists bound by zip ties, a bruise visible beneath his jaw. He was shirtless, slumped against a cinder block wall. On the back of the photo, written in tiny, perfect block letters, "The patient does not yet know he's a patient." From that moment, Ray Maddox's disappearance was no longer treated as a missing person case. It was classified as a targeted abduction, and the third with striking similarities to other unsolved trucker vanishings over the previous decade. Though never publicly disclosed, FBI analysts quietly began connecting Ray's case with elements found in the Crescent Bend rest area abductions from 1998 to 2002. The use of Polaroids, unaltered wallets with IDs and cash intact, behavioral language like subject or patient, and most haunting, the appearance of a snare pole. But there was no Arthur Lang this time. No paper trail. No fingerprints. No surveillance. This new predator was mobile, adaptive, and learning. Ray was never found. Neither was the man in Elaine's photo. Elaine quit trucking 6 weeks later. She moved to Oregon, changed numbers, and stopped speaking to press. Today, Black Hollow Truck Plaza is shuttered. The diner boarded. The pumps fenced off. A cracked hand-painted sign reads, "Closed for repairs, reopening soon." But truckers know better. They call it the place with the man under the trailer. Some say he still stalks rest areas between Pennsylvania and West Virginia. Some believe he was one of Arthur Lang's students. Others whisper that he never stopped, just got better. One thing's certain, if you ever park at a lonely truck stop past midnight, check under your trailer.